Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. With the new update season already here, after what feels like only a few weeks from the last one, it's time to go into some interesting ideas and interesting thoughts with what's going to be coming up. We've already started the rumour mill, as always, when it comes to these updates, and the time between the next update coming out and also this update season is actually pretty quick, so it shouldn't actually take too long. The last one felt incredibly elongated, and it just was a slog. I don't even know why. It just felt like everything was just running at half speed when it came to the information coming out and also the amount of it, because there was just so much going on. And also, at the same time, one of the really interesting things about it is it produced one of the best updates we've had in a very long time. There was hardly any issues, pretty much all the vehicles worked. There was a few, problems with people when it came to what was actually added, but that's always here, especially when it comes to the game. But I think overall, it was a very positive update. Now, the problem we're going to run into is actually one of the same problems that we've had in the past. And I just want to point you towards Smin 1080p. He's a community manager when it comes to War Thunder, and always usually the dude sent out to talk about certain things when it comes to the game. Now, half the time the majority of the time, he's giving dev responses, and the other, he's just trying to quell fires, which seems to be the main job of community managers. And as I've said many times, you would have to pay me a king's ransom to be able to do that job, because it just seems like it's circular. You basically have the same conversations every update or every week. You just have to splatter it with different people and slightly different words. And I've ran into similar issues myself when it comes to the YouTube channel, where I feel like sometimes I explain something and then a few days later I get somebody come along and go, well, how does this work? And it's like, the idea is to make a decent amount of videos on all different topics, so then you can kind of like point to them and then just kind of get them done. I suppose with an online forum, you can't really do that. Now, let's talk about the things that have been discussed already over the last day, because of course we had the first devlog, so we had the first rumors moving around and people discussing things, because as we know in War Thunder, the main things that have to be discussed are what's coming, not what is actually here, which is amazing to me. We've just finished the event and bang, we're straight into working out what's going to come out in next update. Time to consult the moon runes, time to consult the dice and the stars to find out what's going on. And the first thing, of course, is because Guardian have said that there's going to be a new British top-tier aircraft this year, and also maybe even a Swedish one, or at least there's something in the works. Of course, where do people's mind go? Of course, there is the Eurofighter Typhoon. The Eurofighter Typhoon as a vehicle. Now, the reason why people's minds go to that point is pretty simple. Right now, if you actually have a look at the game, Britain is in an interesting place. They have, of course, the Tornado, they have the fighter or the air superiority version, but it's nowhere near the same standard as the F-16 or even the MiG-29 SMT. And a lot of people look to the Eurofighter Typhoon as kind of the next step for Britain, and even Germany and Italy at the same time. So naturally, that's the one that people are going to go for. Not looking at anything such as, variants of other vehicles that we already have in the game, or looking at stuff such as even prototypes or anything like that. Instead, it is just the Eurofighter, because that is the poster boy, that is the popular one that everybody knows and everybody's going to gravitate towards to. Just like when it comes to ground forces, everybody gravitates towards stuff like the T-90M, because everybody's been told it's a fantastic vehicle and hey, it's the poster boy of the Russian armed forces, just like how the M1A2 is the same for the Americans. People want the newest stuff, they want the stuff that's in the news, they want the stuff that's around the place. And Smin has basically just denied it. He says we are not close to the Eurofighter at all at the moment. And to anybody who has any sort of sense, this shouldn't be surprising, because the platform itself is an incredibly advanced one compared to many others that we have in the game. The vehicle itself was one which was a joint project between many different nations. There was a lot of work that went into it to introduce it into the 90s and then also into service a bit later on. There's only a few vehicles when it comes to aviation which are even close to that era, by the way. The only ones specifically being Chinese, with the J8, and that's pretty much it. And those have some very limited capabilities when it comes to their general armament. Stuff like the Eurofighter does not, especially when it comes to its overall maneuverability, its speed, and of course its armament. The surprising thing now is, of course, one of the things that Gaijin does is they limit planes based on armament to balance them for specific periods of time. And now what people are doing is they're going, okay, well, you can add these vehicles in, even though they've been in service, in the mid-90s and would blow everything else away when it comes to the game. Well, you could actually add them in and then just not give them any of its armament. How about that? You could just give it the AIM-9Ls, and that's it. So don't give it like the ASRAM, don't give it the AMRAM, don't give it any of these things, even though they are much more advanced compared to everything else. Just give it like a few sidebinders, give it its paveways, and then that's it. But you know for a fact what would end up happening with something like a Eurofighter Typhoon. If it got added now, and it was the super maneuverable, super quick vehicle that everybody knows it as, and it got added with only AIM-9Ls, you know for a fact that there would be so many people complaining that the vehicle was nowhere near what it needed to be and needs more armament. We literally see it all the time with vehicles that are already in the game. Think about stuff like the MiG-29. It needed better missiles, so now it gets better missiles. The F-16, it wasn't good enough. Removing the limiter and also giving it kind of an all-purpose platform in the F-16C and also the Barak 2 is not good enough. It isn't dominant enough. We need to give it the AIM-9M, right? We need to give it new stuff. And that would be exactly the same conversation with the Typhoon. Because people don't look for balance, they look for advantage when it comes to the vehicles that they want to play. And unfortunately, Britain right now, since the Typhoon is not going to come this year, or is probably going to come next year or the year after, there's a problem, right? And the problem is exactly what other nations have run into, including Britain in the past. And it's just the simple fact that some nations held onto aircraft longer than others and just didn't develop anything or only imported other stuff after a while. Think about Italy, right? Italy was stuck in War Thunder with some pretty naff top-tier vehicles for a while in aviation. They had the best propeller aircraft and still have the best propeller aircraft in the game. And also, if you have a look at Japan, Japan also had issues when it came to that in War Thunder, where your top-tier vehicles, because of the progression of general technology that is added to each tech tree in the game, what ends up happening is you just run into areas where certain nations are just not going to be able to compete. And now, right now, Britain's in that area. And I understand that many people are annoyed by this who like to play the British tech tree. And it's completely fair. I mean, if I only played Britain, I would be annoyed too. Because they are nowhere near competitive. They are nowhere near, at the end of the day, something which can be looked at and happy with, because of the fact that they are dealing with technology which is so inferior to everything else at the highest echelon, and they just get murked because of it. I feel really bad for people who want to play top-tier Britain, but also, this is the natural cycle. The only nations that this doesn't really apply to is Russia and also America, because they're always going to have something which fills their specific BR gaps when they decide to add in new vehicles. And because War Thunder, even though it doesn't mirror reality when it comes to when specific vehicles are added, because that would just be a mess, what it does try to mirror is the advancements in technology. And it's just a simple fact that America and Russia had smaller increments of technological growth than places like Britain, Germany, Italy, France, and all of these general places. And it sucks. It really does. But there isn't really a solution. The only solution that exists is subtech trees, right? The only solution to this idea is actually to add subtech trees into the game, into those nations which are struggling at those specific BRs before they can get their new banger vehicles. Which is why stuff like Hungary is added, which is why stuff like Finland is added. It fills out BR gaps and also means that at the higher echelon, you can get some more unique or interesting vehicles which can actually spread out stuff. There's a ton of stuff that's coming for Britain. We literally had a devlog with the Vickers Mark 11, which is a vehicle I'm looking forward to for a long time. There's also a bunch more light tanks which are going to be coming down the pipeline, and also aircraft as well. But if you're looking for the Typhoon, it's one of those which you're going to have to wait on. But it's probably good that you do, because otherwise the game would just revolve around it and nothing else. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.